Hey there, I'm Brian Goulet of GouletPens.com, and I have a pretty cool pen to show you, one that it's really not new. It's new to us here at Goulet Pens, but it's the least expensive gold nib fountain pen that I've ever seen, and certainly that I've ever carried. So it's pretty exciting. I want to give you a little tour here and show you what it's all about. Now, the box for this pen is kind of interesting. It definitely has kind of a retro feel to it, but it's it is what it is. They sometimes change up the boxes on these things. This is what it is as of January of 2015. So it's kind of got this flip top, kind of, it's very like, brittle plastic kind of thing. It's nothing too fancy really at all. It's got a proprietary platinum cartridge as well as a converter, which is really kind of nice that it comes with the pen. And then the pen itself is in this little plastic sleeve, and it's got this little tag on here that shows you what the pen is called. And then it's got some instructions in here on how to fill it and stuff, most of which is in Japanese. So, I'm going to cover some of that in this video, so you don't really need that. But anyway, the box is nothing to completely flip out about, but the pen itself is really pretty nice. It's a very, very light pen, and as you can tell in my hands, I have very big hands, but the pen is fairly small. So it's a little on the smaller side. If you like small, light pens, I think you're really going to like this one. It's a very kind of a classic look, definitely kind of a professional looking pen, so it would work in, kind of professional environment, good workplace pen, I guess. It's a snap cap push to post, so it's really pretty, easy to use and take out for quick notes and things like that. It's not too lavish, but it's got some embellishments on it, so I like that. It's kind of a, this is a very kind of a, I don't know, I think of Japanese pens when I think of this design. Platinum is a Japanese company, but very kind of a classic look to it, nothing too crazy. It's got gold trim. There's actually a black version and a burgundy version as well. I only have the black version right here to show you now. And it's got this 14 karat nib here on the end. For whatever reason, the little trim ring that's right around the nib is not gold, it's silver. So that's interesting, just a little two-tone look going on there, but something I wanted to point out to you. And Platinum, one of the best things about the pens in actual use is they have really good cap sealing mechanisms on there. If you've ever used a Platinum Preppy, you know that the pen almost never dries out. And certainly they're more expensive pens. The 3776 is kind of their flagship pen. They've got a slip and seal cap design on there that keeps those pens from drying out almost forever, several years. So this one has a different design than that, but it's got an insert inside the cap here. It's kind of tough to see, but it's in there. So when this thing is sealed, the nib is sealed up really tightly, so it's going to last a long time without drying out. That's pretty nice. It's got a pretty straightforward clip. It's nothing too fancy. It's got a little bit of spring to it. It's not the strongest clip I've ever seen. It's just kind of a flat piece of metal there. And it's hard to tell, especially in pictures, but maybe you can see it in the video here. It's actually got a black kind of a covering here on the clip. So it's a little bit of gold edging there, but it's black right here. It kind of looks like it's just glare, but it's actually black there. It's got the name Platinum right here on the center band. Doesn't have anything too fancy going on either of the ends of it. One of the neat things about this pen, though, is the fact that, obviously it has a 14 karat nib. That is awesome, but it's really kind of neat that it's got a translucent feed behind the nib. So when you're using an ink color that's something unusual, like a red or green or something like that, you're going to be able to see that color really strongly in the feed. That's really kind of a neat aspect that most fountain pens don't have. And the most exciting thing about this pen is the nib itself. It is a 14 karat gold nib pen on a pen that's under $80, $79.20. It's really just blows away the price of any other gold nib pen I've ever seen. Most gold nib pens start around $130, $140 and go on up from there. So this is by far the least expensive one I've ever seen. And not only that, but it's actually a little bit soft. They don't advertise that necessarily, but I'll show you in a writing sample here in a minute what that actually means for you. But it's available in an extra fine, fine, and a medium nib size. And this is a Japanese pen, so the extra fine and fine are going to be pretty darn fine. So that's definitely a huge selling point for this pen. The pen itself is very light. If you're using it uncapped, it's incredibly light. It almost doesn't even feel like you're holding anything. It's a resin pen, and I believe, I can't tell for sure, but I think the grip is metal. It definitely feels just a little bit different. It's a little bit heavier, so it's going to be a little bit nib heavy if you're using the pen without the cap. If you're using it posted on the back, it's going to be really kind of nicely balanced. I think that's the way, the best way to use this pen, especially given it's a little smaller. It's got these metal threads here on the back of the grip section. So, I mean, you might be kind of curious, like, how do you fill this pen? So it uses a Platinum proprietary cartridge here, which you just snap it right onto there to use it, or use the Platinum converter, which comes with the pen. You just kind of push it right on there, and then it's got a piston that's built in. It allows you to fill with bottled ink. And one question I get asked a lot is, can pens be converted to an eyedropper? Well, the body itself is sealed up, so theoretically you could. However, the metal threads here on the grip mean that you probably don't want to do that, because the metal will corrode with long exposure to ink over time. So I would say a no-go on an eyedropper conversion on this one. Stick with the supplied converter. So let's check out what other pens this one kind of compares to. The most obvious one to me, as soon as I saw this, was the Kanazawa Leaf Maki-e. Now this pen is nearly $200, so I was really thinking, like, how different is this thing going to be? But the thing is, they're really pretty similar. In pictures, they look really similar because the style and the overall kind of design is very close, but you can tell the size is a little bit different when you see them next to each other. Especially the nib design is very similar as well. They both have gold nibs. The Kanazawa Leaf, though, is an 18-karat nib, so it's going to be a little bit softer, a little bit springier, and then the 14-karat one here on the PTL-5000A. And the nib itself is a little smaller overall. And the pen has a little bit more embellishments here on the grip with the Kanazawa Leaf, and then of course the body of the pen is going to have that Maki-e design on it. That's a lot of the reason for the pen being about twice the price, more than twice the price actually. Another good one to compare to is the Platinum Balance. Now this pen is really kind of a different design, but it's got a black with a gold nib on it. The plastic, I can tell, is a little bit different because it's not quite as shiny. It's almost got kind of a foggier look to it. Just the black, it looks a little bit different. You know, it's a less expensive pen. It's just over $43. So, you know, you would expect that there would be some trade-offs. And part of the trade-off there is going to be a steel nib as well instead of gold. The nib is going to look very similar to the PTL-5000A, but it's gold-plated steel, not actual gold. It still has a little bit of spring to it, though, so if you are looking for that, you can still get that in the Balance. That's kind of nice. But you know, there's going to be some trade-offs there, especially with the material of the nib. So I got 4 different pens to compare to this PTL-5000A in terms of its size. Ones that I thought were fairly close in design and maybe give you some idea of what this pen is like visually. So I got the PTL-5000A here in the middle. And next to it on the left, I have the Kanazawa Leaf Maki-e. And then over here on the left side, I have the Platinum Balance. Right next to the right of the 5000A, I've got the Pilot Namiki Falcon. It's kind of going through a name change, but it says Namiki on there. It's the Falcon. And then on the far right, I have the Platinum 3776. This is in Bourgogne. So you can see here that the PTL-5000A is definitely the smallest of the bunch, definitely thinner than all the other pens. Taking a look at all of the nibs, you can see that the overall nib design is fairly similar to the other 2 Platinum pens. Pretty different than the Falcon and the 3776. Definitely a smaller nib than all the other pens. And the pen overall, the length is not an incredible difference in size, but certainly the diameter of the grip is going to be smaller on this pen than all of the comparables. All right, so I've inked up my PTL-5000A with Noodler's Black. That's what I use for the Nib Nook writing samples on gouletpens.com, and you'll find this one on there. I'm using the Noodler's Black in a converter here because it's not available in a cartridge. But it fills just like every other type of cartridge converter pen, very easy. And I got the extra fine nib in here because that's the one that was most exciting to me, because a Japanese nib, they're going to grind their extra fines a little finer than the Europeans would. So I thought that would be a really nice feature to show in this particular pen. So let's go ahead and take it for a little test drive. If you write with a light hand, you're going to get a very fine line. It doesn't even have to be that light of a hand. really just kind of a normal hand. I normally have a heavy hand, so for me, pretty much everything feels light. But PTL, okay, and I know it's not like the hottest name out there, but you know what, that's what it's called. So 5000A, and this is a 14 karat gold extra fine. Now, most people tend to associate gold nibs with being really smooth and glassy feeling, and you know, generally gold nibs, there's a little more care that's taken to them than it's like mass-produced stainless steel nibs. However, Platinum in general is really kind of known for having a little bit toothier nibs than some of the other companies. It's just kind of their style. It's not scratchy by any means. It's not going to, you know, drag and kind of cut the paper or anything like that, as if you had, you know, tines that were misaligned or something on your pen. But you're going to feel more feedback from the paper than you would on most other gold nib pens. So that's just something to be aware of. A lot of people really kind of like that feeling, especially if you use smoother paper like Rhodia and you don't want to be slipping and sliding all over the page. You know, that's where a pen like this will really kind of come in handy. A lot of people like it because they feel that it has a controlled feeling as opposed to kind of slipping around. So just kind of pointing that out there. And if you're writing with this pen, you know, you can have kind of a fine line, and then if you, you know, kind of the nice thing about these Platinum pens, you know, the Maki-e, even the Balance, and then this PTL-5000A, is if you give it a decent amount of writing pressure, you can get some decent line variation. You know, it'll write a lot wetter. If you're using not a black ink, but you know, a colored ink, you'll get a much darker color when you're kind of giving it a little bit of writing pressure. And it's a 14 karat nib, so it's going to give you some of that variation a little bit better than you would get in, say, like the Platinum Balance, for example. That one, you've really got to give it a pretty decent amount of pressure to do it. Now, what I just did there is I actually had it where the feed kind of dragged on the page. So, you know, if you hold it at a really low pen angle, you might run into that kind of situation, like right there. That's actually the feed dragging on the page. So Platinum doesn't advertise that this pen is a soft nib or a flex nib or anything like that. So I really don't want to try to sell that too hard because, you know, this is just kind of a little bonus feature that you get on this pen. By all means, if you want to use it just normally and not have any type of, you know, flex type characteristics whatsoever, you can totally do that, and it's going to be a really nice performing pen. You know, if you are flexing it out like that, you may tend to get some starting stuff just because, you know, it doesn't have this big gaping open feed like you would have on a normal flex pen to try to keep up with the flow. So, you know, it may be a feature that you'll have to kind of play around with if that's the reason you're getting this pen. But it is kind of nice if you're just writing with it like normal and you want to, you know, do a little embellishment every now and then and get a little variation to it. You know, you can do some kind of neat stuff like that. And it's something kind of fun to play around with. You know, so all in all, to get a pen that writes like this for a price range like this, I think it's pretty phenomenal. So that is the PTL-5000A from Platinum. If you want more details and specifications, pictures, things like that, you can check it out on gouletpens.com. And you can also buy it there, you know, if you want to. If you like this video and you want more like it, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching, and right on.